Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Wahoo Kickr Core. This is an in-depth review of the trainer in 2023, so I'm going to be talking about all the goods and bads of this trainer, along with some additional topics such as bonus features, pros and cons, and how this compares to the other trainers on the market currently. Let's dive into the video. So the Wahoo Kickr Core was released in 2018 and started at a retail price of $899. When this trainer was released, it caused a lot of ripples in the market because none of the direct drive smart trainers were that cheap, I guess, and everyone was excited to look at this new trainer, see how it performed, and a lot of reviewers found that it performed identical to the higher end trainers, had very low noise level and a extremely good ride feel, good power accuracy, and really good overall. But the downsides were that it was still a bit pricey, but it was the best for its budget. So now with the release of the Zwift Hub in late 2022, the market has totally shifted, and now you can get a direct drive trainer for $499, which is absolutely insane. It includes a cassette. The Wahoo Kickr Core doesn't, so that is a big thing that drives people away from the Wahoo Kickr Core, is the lack of the inclusion of a cassette. And even better about the Zwift Hub, it does include a cassette of your choice. You can choose 8, 9, 10, or 11, or 12 speed on your Zwift Hub. So let's dive into the video, and that was just a brief overview of the trainer, and now into the video. So I'm going to go over a brief overview of this trainer, and I'm going to talk about the different specs for this trainer because I feel like it is really important to highlight what this trainer does feature and what this trainer does not feature. So in terms of power accuracy, plus or minus 2%, it is not at the level to compete in the UCI sanctioned events on Zwift. So you're going to need a trainer that supports plus or minus 1% for that. This will not meet the cutoff, but it does feature a very high power accuracy. And next off is simulated grade. It can simulate up to 16%, which is pretty good for most indoor cycling apps. Most gradients do not hit over 15 or 16%. There are a few that hit 20, but only for a brief second, so I don't think it really matters. Next, power is going to max out at 1,800 watts, and that's a whole lot of watts, and most riders won't be hitting that kind of power. But if you happen to hit that power, you know that your trainer is safe and you don't have to worry about your watts not registering because you're actually putting out 2,500 watts. And then next is the Bluetooth connections. This trainer can pair through Bluetooth or ANT+, and it will support erg mode and erg power smoothing, which is a bonus feature to the Wahoo ecosystem. So this trainer, all in all, this trainer is pretty good, and the specs are pretty awesome for the price point, but they are very similar to the Zwift Hub, and the Zwift Hub, as I stated earlier, is quite a bit cheaper. And this trainer retails at $899, and you can probably find it at $700 because Wahoo is often putting this on sale. Try to compete with Zwift, who is offering their Zwift Hub trainer at only $499. That about rounds it up for the specs / overview, and now on to the next section. So in terms of the setup of this trainer, I found it very easy to set up, and all you need to do is screw in the legs that kind of keep it stable, and that was really all you need to do. Then after that, just plug it in and it's all ready to go. The setup took maybe 10 to 15 minutes because the cassette is sometimes a hassle, depending on whether you have a cassette that's fully assembled or if you have to kind of piece it back together and remember which part goes where, which is something I kind of struggle with. So since it does not include a cassette, you're going to need to buy your own, and then if you do happen to buy your own, don't take it out of the box until you have your trainer and you're all ready to go, because if you watch Shane Miller, GP Llama's video, he can show you how to easily slide it right off of the little holder and let it go straight into the trainer. Then all you have to do is tighten the lock ring and you're all ready to go. So overall, setup, super easy, and I found it to be extremely easy. Not quite as easy as the Tacx Neo 2T, as the Tacx Neo 2T does not include any screwing or anything like that. All you have to do is unfold the legs and it's literally all ready to go. You don't even have to plug it in. So that's kind of a trade-off for getting a more budget-friendly trainer. If you're looking for the absolute easiest trainer to use, I'd recommend going towards the Zwift Hub because it does have a super easy step-by-step tutorial with cards that show you where everything goes. I've seen reviewers reviewing that trainer, and the setup just looks insanely amazing, and it just looks so easy to use that if you're a complete beginner, I'd recommend going that direction because it is just way more user-friendly for riders who are not as oriented towards indoor training. In terms of power accuracy, I ran this through my typical Z-Race Central special test, which is basically a test that tests all the different aspects of a trainer to really make sure that it can execute all the different power types correctly, such as sprints, steady state efforts, and hard VO2 efforts, and just easy efforts and easy warm-ups, so that to make sure that the heat does not affect how the trainer does perform, because it is a big issue with many smart trainers is that when it's cold it reads low or high, and that often messes up people when they are riding on in-game cycling or virtual cycling apps such as Zwift. So in this test, I put it through its paces with a few sprints and a few hard efforts and then a few easy efforts in between those to finish it off. I found that this trainer was actually extremely accurate, and I found that it was very close to the Tacx Neo 2T, which I reviewed earlier, and you can see that up in the video info card, and that'll be a link to the in-depth review of the Tacx Neo 2T. So back to power accuracy, I found that this is extremely accurate. It did not have trouble with any of the different powers, and I overall am very happy with this. And I can't tell the difference between this power accuracy and the Wahoo and the Tacx Neo 2T, which is a good $500 more. And one thing to know about this trainer versus the really high-end trainers such as the Tacx Neo 2T is that the power goes up a lot faster on this trainer, which can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad, because on the Tacx Neo 2T it kind of prevents microbursts, which is a big issue on Zwift, and the Wahoo Kickr Core, you kind of sprint and it just goes up and then it comes right back down. You just keep doing that and it'll keep your speed pretty high in Zwift. That's something that is a pretty big issue currently, and there are a lot of debates about that issue. So overall, power accuracy on this trainer was spot on, and I really enjoyed riding on this trainer because it is just super accurate, and I find that I'm not worried that my power is reading wrong, and calibration process is super simple. All you have to do is go through the Wahoo app, spin up for real quick for a few seconds, and then just glide, and it is all done. And you only have to do that maybe once a week is what I would recommend, just to make sure you have a good power accuracy. So on to the next topic. In terms of noise level, I found that this is very similar to the Tacx Neo 2T, if not maybe a bit quieter. It hovered around 60 decibels, just like the other trainers that I have tested, and really the only noise that can be heard is the sound of the cassette and the drivetrain, because that's really what makes all the noise these days, so you don't have to worry about your neighbors complaining about the trainers being too loud. I know previous generations of the Wahoo Kickr did have audio issues, and I used to ride on a Wahoo Kickr Gen 2, and that was actually very loud. I kind of enjoyed the sound, but that's just my personal preference. But overall, Kickr Core is extremely silent, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a really quiet trainer. So in terms of ride feel, there's nothing really special about the Wahoo Kickr Core. It feels pretty identical to all the other trainers or direct drive trainers that have a real flywheel, whereas with the Tacx Neo 2T has a virtual flywheel, so you don't get that same feel. But overall, the ride feel on the Wahoo Kickr Core is pretty great, and it's going to feel the same as any other trainer with a physical flywheel, because it's pretty much the same technology in all the trainers. The hardware is pretty much the same, but there's some software changes in terms of power and how each trainer measures the power, which is what actually changes the specs. So it's more of the tech that changes the specs, not so much the hardware. The hardware is pretty similar between all of the, I'd say, mid-range trainers, because if you look at them, they all look the same. If you look at the Zwift Hub, has the same concept, and along with the Kickr Core, Kinetic Power Trainer, and all of those trainers all look very similar. So there's not much change hardware-wise, and that's why you kind of get the same ride feel throughout most direct drive trainers. So a quick section on portability. This trainer is not portable at all. You can't really fold the legs or do anything like that. It's kind of just stuck in place. So if you need to store this trainer, it's not going to be that easy to store, but it does not take up too much space, I'd argue. And I have found that I don't have to move the trainer personally at all, but it is not too heavy to move either. So I'd say that portability, it's decent, but not the best for someone who really needs to be folding up the trainer and putting it into tight spaces. The Kickr Core does not have a ton of special features. I say that there are two main features that come to mind when I do think about this, and that's erg power smoothing and the compatibility with the Wahoo Kickr Climb. The Wahoo Kickr Climb allows you to simulate gradients up and down, so it kind of just moves your front wheel up and down. You can take the front wheel off for that too. So this is really for riders who are really committed to indoor training. It'll just kind of move your bike up and down, and that's only compatible with Wahoo trainers. So the Wahoo Kickr Core, that is a perk with the Wahoo ecosystem. It's not compatible with any other trainers such as the tax trainers or the elite trainers or kinetic trainers. It just doesn't work with those because Wahoo wants it to be exclusive to the Wahoo users. Next off is erg power smoothing. Erg power smoothing I don't really like because it's kind of artificial power. What it essentially does is when you're in erg mode and you're trying to hit those intervals, it really just flattens out the power and you have a dead smooth graph. It kind of just like averages out your power, makes sure it only varies within 1 to 2 watts, and it's just super smooth graph. And I'd say that it's kind of fake power because it's not actually showing your actual power that you're putting out. So for riders who are trying to decide between the Zwift Hub or the Wahoo Kickr Core, I'd say go with the Zwift Hub. Personally, I think that this trainer has seen better days and it's 5 years old at this point, so I don't see it getting any new updates or any new features, and it is possible that Wahoo may release a new version of this trainer to kind of compete with Zwift, but overall it just no longer has the same value that it used to in 2018 when it was released. But overall, it's a great trainer. If you can find one used for like a good price, I'd say that would be an option. But at the current price of $899, it just does not seem reasonable with the Zwift Hub at only $499, offering essentially the same specs and features as the Wahoo Kickr Core. So to wrap up this video, I say that this is a solid trainer, and if you do own one, it is a great trainer to use and it's very durable, but the Zwift Hub just beats it in almost everything because of its value. And if you're really just looking for a budget option that's easy to use, the Zwift Hub is likely the way to go because of how budget friendly it is and easy to use. And it's just overall seems like a great trainer, but the Wahoo Kickr Core can no longer compete with that trainer. So that's that. I'd recommend the Zwift Hub over the Wahoo Kickr Core. And if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please like and subscribe. See you all next time, and ride on.